a lot of people I talk to, they appear on paper like they're playing it safe and not taking risks, but in the long run, they are the ones at the biggest risk of things like layoffs, of things like boredom, and they actually end up earning less money, which I think is the really big risk that most people are afraid of. Oh my God, what if I make a change and I lose out on income and I'm not earning as much? I don't want to have to give up my paycheck. And so it's an interesting thing, because this false dichotomy of, should I play it safe and stay in my comfort zone and just keep what I have right now, or should I make the leap and go for the unknown? That false dichotomy, it actually makes people earn less money, be more unsafe. I mean, these are the people who get laid off because they're the ones who are kind of status quo, bored at work, going through the motions, just hanging on to what they have. And then guess what? When the layoffs come, they tend to be the ones that lose their job. Now, I'm speaking, in generalizations based on a lot of people I've talked to. Obviously, it could happen that you're super motivated, ahead of the game, on top of things, and you love your job and you get laid off. Anyway, of course, that can happen as well. And that's why it's so important to have a strategy where even if you love your job, you know that there's other options available to you. You have a really strong brand, you have a really strong network, and you don't get put in that kind of situation. But a lot of the people I talk to, they're not necessarily loving their job, but they're doing it really for the paycheck, right? And because that's what they know. And it's hard for them to imagine themselves without this job, which occupies so much of their life. And so they stay in it and they think they're playing it safe, but then down the line, either, like I said before, they get laid off, or sometimes they just get progressively more and more unhappy, right? So in the beginning, they start to see signs of not liking it. The growth starts slowing down. Then they realize they're just feeling kind of stagnant, but it's still bearable. But then the more time goes on, the worse they feel. And then that starts to have some pretty serious repercussions. I've seen people with serious health issues, especially if they've been in a toxic work environment. People get burned out. People even go to the hospital due to career-related crises. And these are kinds of things that happen over time. So if you start to notice that you're not happy anymore, you need to take action sooner rather than later, because it gets worse. It doesn't get better unless you do something to make it better. So what's interesting is that there are ways to move forward in the direction that you want, while actually mitigating risk and, in fact, improving your chances of getting the life you want. Now, when we talk about getting the career, getting the life that you want, and we talk about happiness and fulfillment, a lot of people automatically think, okay, but I want money. Not just happiness and fulfillment, that sounds nice, but I also want a good paycheck. Nobody said happiness and fulfillment needs to be, you need to make a choice between that or money. You can have both. And presumably we're talking about getting the life you want. That's probably going to include having the income you want, right? So we're talking about getting what you want. What are the things that you want? That includes the money, that includes the fulfillment, that includes the type of people you want to spend your days around and be working with, the kind of energy and vibe those people have, their values. Do they match with your values? The working environment. Do you want to work from home, or do you prefer to work in an office, or a combination of both? All those different factors. Like, what do you want? And then there are ways to go for what you want while mitigating the risks that seem to come with going for what you want. So, for example, let's give you some examples here. For example, I've had clients switch careers, and sorry, it seems kind of obvious to me because I work with people all the time who do this, but I know to a lot of people and when you're in that mode, when you're in the bubble and you're feeling stuck, it can be really difficult to see outside the bubble and see all the different options that are out there. So if you're thinking, oh, do I need to quit my job to start something new? Most of the time you can actually keep working in your current job, but start that new thing. Do a pilot project to make sure it works before you give up where you are right now. Obviously, in some circumstances, if your job is incredibly toxic, well, yeah, you might need to leave because you just don't have the energy or the bandwidth left to start that new thing. But hopefully, you know, again, if you start this sooner rather than later, before things get too bad, then you'll be able to do both at the same time before you quit one or the other. So I think that the big message here is just to make sure you're using risk mitigation strategies versus thinking about it in terms of, should I stay or should I go? Because these are not the only two options. And those are risky options. Both are risky. Whether you stay, that's risky, because if you stay in a job that you don't enjoy, that's a big risk. What does that mean to your future? Is that the life that you're wanting to create? No, that is failing at your goal. Your goal in life is to be happy and fulfilled and all of that. So if you're choosing to stay where you are, which is not creating the highest version of yourself, that is a failure. That is a huge risk. And plus, you're in the long run going to earn less money than if you're doing a job you enjoy. So that's not an option. But then again, quitting everything and to jump into the unknown and you have no idea if it's going to work out and nobody even knows you in this new industry or whatever it is, that's obviously a big risk as well. So you don't need to give yourself these two lose-lose options. You want to give yourself win-win options. And that is how you play it safe while stepping into the uncertainty and creating new results for yourself. And when you start behaving like this, in the long run, you're going to start to go way further in life, because people who get those quantum leaps, people who have amazing things happen to them, amazing opportunities, of course, they're the ones who are quote unquote risk takers, but they're actually not necessarily daredevils or anything like that. They're just the ones who are out there trying new things, taking the steps, moving forward, taking action. And so it's just so important to make sure you're not worried that, oh no, is this too big of a risk to take? You want to always be thinking about what do I need to do to get to my goal? And what are the steps I need to take? Do we know if all the steps are going to work, or all of the risks are going to necessarily be the one thing that gets me there? No, maybe it'll be a combination of the different steps you've taken. Maybe, you know, you try something, it's not quite the thing that's going to get you to your goal, but then you readjust and you go somewhere else. But all these little mini risks, or even sometimes bigger risks, they're all just steps on the path towards where it is that you're going. And you need to stay focused on that goal, really focused on that vision of what are you creating for yourself? What is your life? What do you want your life to look like? And make sure you're advancing in that direction. Because the worst thing you can possibly do is just debate with yourself about what you want, and debate if it's realistic, and debate if you deserve it, and debate whether it's worth taking a risk towards it, and then just staying where you are right now. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next video before I go off and ramble for too much longer. But let me know if